So welcome back to the second part of this two-part video, which is all about riding the Paris Brest Paris in a time of 56 hours and 40 minutes, also called the Charly Miller Award for people that belong to the Randonneurs USA. However, I think many of us can, of course, benefit from listening to this video in many different ways. Whatever your goal is at the Paris Brest Paris, please enjoy the video.
So can I just ask, it's now an hour and 8 minutes. Are you guys okay with just doing at least another half an hour and then we can, are you okay with that?
I got all the time in the world.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we've covered the sleep. The next thing we're gonna do is, we're gonna talk about food and electrolytes and about support. Okay, so Kevin, did you have a strategy to be able to replace carbohydrates during the ride? Did you follow a specific regimen like 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour, or how did you fuel your Charly Miller attempt?
Yeah, I mainly relied on food at the controls. I did carry some bars and some gels. I was regularly taking in gels, but I mean, like other aspects of this, I wasn't really super scientific about it. I was like, if I'm hungry for something, I'll eat it. I had some Perpetuum, I take a drink of that every now and then. So I did have a timer set for, I think it was every 90 minutes. I take one of those salt stick pills, just to kind of supplement the electrolytes. So yeah, but the majority of my calories came from food at the controls.
Did you ever lose your appetite during the ride, and did you have to ever force yourself to eat? Or
not that I recall. No, I fortunately, I mean, unlike Jeff, I didn't have any problems eating whatever sounded good at the time. No digestive issues. I mean, I got really lucky in a lot of aspects of that ride, but especially when it comes to taking in nutrition.
Okay. And did you practice any of that beforehand? Did you have the same gels or bars that you would have trained with in your rides leading up to the PBP?
That would have been the smart thing to do. I didn't quite do that. I usually don't take a lot of gels on my rides or training rides or brevets, but this time around I brought a good amount of gel. I was going to take regular servings of gels, and I had an alert on my Garmin that every so many kilometers let me know that I need to take in some gel. And that's all well and good, but kind of like we were talking about as far as getting out to Brest, that was a really fast 600K out there. And so I was taking in gels a little more frequently than I normally would. So, by the time coming back from Brest, I was kind of like not really inclined to take more gels. So it was basically too much gel early on. I think if I spread it out a bit more, it would have worked out a bit better. But yeah, so I actually started with gel and ended up more with regular food. So it was kind of opposite than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, so and I actually had a whole system that I had used throughout all my SR series leading up to it. So I wasn't doing anything different than I had through any of my other rides. And what I've primarily been doing on a lot of these long rides is using there's a company called Scratch Labs, and they make a product called Super Fuel that they've rebranded as like high carb drink mix or whatever. And you can portion, like the normal serving size of that is 1 bottle and like 8 scoops of this stuff, and it makes a 24-ounce bottle into a 400 calorie serving. So I started off with 2 bottles I started off with 3 bottles, two bottles filled with Scratch Labs and 1 with water. And then my goal was to basically drink those first 3 for the, stay with the fast guys as long as I could with 3 bottles I had, and then alternate water and Scratch Labs in in kind of in succession. Because you can only take so much of the carb mix, and you need some water mix, some plain water mix in there as well. But I couldn't even stomach that for once I started having the digestive. But that was my. So I had taken that drink mix and portioned it out into 8 scoop servings into Ziplocs, and I had like a big Ziploc that had all the small Ziplocs of that, and that's pretty much what I carried. I brought along some gels and some other bars. The gels I use mainly as like an emergency if I start having like a real low sugar moment and I need something to get me through that. And then bars for if I didn't have something to eat at a control, or I needed some sort of food, then I had some bars with me. But my plan was to use this scratch super fuel and then eat real food at the controls, and that was kind of the plan I had going into, and that's kind of how I'd run a lot of my brevets. I'd done this super fuel, and then unfortunately the beautiful like Sheetz supermarket type of gas station that we have here in Pennsylvania, there aren't too many of those in France, so getting that slice of pizza or the half a hoagie or something like that doesn't really doesn't exist. But there was still like plenty of food at the controls for you to supplement with whatever you were bringing with you. So I didn't see that as a problem. It was just me that was the problem. So
no, excellent. I watched Nick DeHaan's interview that he did just recently, and he mentioned taking the majority of his nutrition as liquid nutrition. Is that something similar? He didn't mention any brands, but is that something similar, or are you aware if that's what he took?
I don't know what product he took, but I saw the same interview, and I was at least like the fact that like it was the same strategy I was using, because where he had support and I was I had seen other people that had support, like I was pretty much hauling with me what I needed to for the whole ride. So that was at least I was on the right track with fueling strategy there. So
wow, so that's even more kudos to you. I took 50 kilograms worth of, it says 100 and some odd pounds, 110 pounds worth of support with me. I had almost an entire in a vehicle with every single.
Oh, you didn't have it on your bike? Okay.
I misunderstood that too.
I had every possible thing you can think of as with my support team. I prepared for any eventuality. All the food, drinks, equipment, clothing, you name it. We could have had a few pro teams, fed out of that vehicle. So that you took all your stuff with you is just absolutely amazing to take all of that. So you didn't even, Jeff, did you even have a drop bag that you had to go and look for in Ludiac?
No drop bag.
No. So you carried all your gels and everything else with you. Kevin, did you take a drop bag, or did you have a support vehicle?
I did not have a support vehicle. I did use the drop bag service that Ruza was offering. I mainly use that for an eventuality of really cold weather or rain. I had a lot of rain gear in there, a lot of extra layers and jackets that I didn't need at all. I mean, the weather was perfect aside from it being a little bit on the warm side. But in my drop bag, I did have some extra bars and a few Cokes in there. And that's all I really used it for. I changed of shorts on the way back at Ludiac. I swapped shorts, but that's really all I ended up using it for.
So you had a drop bag at Ludiac, so that was on the way out, and then you accessed it again on the way back.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I just got some food on the way out, and on the way back got some food and my shorts.
Okay. And finding your bag didn't take too long. You didn't lose a lot of time with that, or was that all factored into your 13 miles per hour?
No, I did lose some time. On the way out, it wasn't so bad just because we were so ahead of the bulge. But on the way back, we ran into everybody, and it was a bit of a zoo out there. Spent a little more time than I would have liked the second time around at Ludiac. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, I mean, we had enough time banked. But yeah, when we got back on the bike, a big chunk of it was gone. I mean, time time spent at the control, I mean, it sneaks up on you. I mean, it's always more than you think it is. You end up spending longer than you think you're going to, almost always. So got to get in and out of there as fast as possible.
Can I, talk about drop bags and support? For from what I read about Charly Miller, he did his ride as a professional, but unsupported back in 1901. Is there any kind of stipulation that you have to do it unsupported, or are you still awarded do you get the award even if you have support? Is that?
I never heard of any stipulation that it has to be unsupported. I mean, it might be. I just never heard of that. I think you can still get it even if you are supported.
Okay. So if somebody in the future wants to do it and they want to take support, they can still actually go for the award as well.
Yeah, from what I understand.
Yeah. So just kudos to you guys for doing it completely unsupported in that case. That's awesome. And so I want to ask you about electrolytes. Jeff spoke about the super foods. Did you have, so I take it, Kevin, you actually had to mix your own electrolytes as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I have these salt sticks. They're just like little pills that are electrolytes. I carry some Noon tablets, like those tablets you drop in your water and it's all fizzy, and so I got some electrolytes there. And then Perpetuum. I don't know if there's electrolytes in there, but definitely carbs. But yeah, everything else electrolyte wise, I just got from food at the controls. So yeah, I mixed everything myself.
I think there was some controls that had electrolyte solutions and various kinds of energy solutions or drinks and powders that you could purchase. Did you go to any of those, or did you not need to?
No, I didn't need to. As far as electrolytes and energy drink mix and all that kind of stuff, like I just had that with me or in my drop bag, and I re-up. I never had to buy that stuff specifically at a control.
Okay. And Jeff, yourself, you said you took all your energy powders and your electrolytes with you?
Yeah, and I basically if I brought if I filled up 8 bags of powder for my bottles because of the issues I got myself into, I probably returned back with like 7 of them intact. Like I didn't drink nearly what I was expecting to, or what I had historically drank on a 600K, and double that. So yeah, it was it got to the point where I was just hoping to get something down, and I eventually found that like the soups at the controls were something that I could palate. So then I would go into the control and look for the soup, and that was and then eventually I got to the point where I could take soup and a baguette, and then that became like, I was able to get a little more down, and then eventually, like as I got closer to home, I was able to start eating a bigger variety of things at the controls. But the idea of drink mixes and powders, like all that had gone out the window, because I was just trying to figure out something that I could eat that wasn't going to make me sick. So
did you eventually have to toss the electrolyte mixes to lighten your load, or did you bring it all back home?
Oh no, I still have I think I've used them in training, so I portion them out, so I still have them to throw in a bottle if I'm going on a long weekend, on a Saturday or Sunday ride. I'll throw, I still have them portioned out, so I'm not sure if I've used all. I might have already gotten through them by now, but yeah, I've used them. So but I wasn't throwing anything away. So I feel guilty enough throwing the plastic bag away when I empty one, and then I'm like throwing away a Ziploc. It seems like a waste. But
did you go prepared for all weather conditions as well? I mean, did you take like a raincoat and change of clothing, and did you have all of that on your bike?
Yeah, so I brought a pair of so for all weather gear, I like some of the Castelli products. So they make a GABA jacket that's like a short sleeve jacket for rain, and then they make the same material they make in arm warmers. So I brought that GABA jacket, the Castelli arm warmers, and then a pair of knee warmers that pack up pretty small and rolled them into my saddlebag. So I had, that was my that was kind of my cold weather gear. And then it was actually like that first night it got misty, and like middle of the morning, like I think I stopped at a control, and it was, you know, 4 or 5 a.m. or something like that, and I was sitting there shivering at the control getting going again. So I was glad to have that. And you know, even putting my PVP reflective vest on top of the GABA jacket, I was actually kind of glad to have that layering for those like early morning hours. But yeah, the only other negative like is that one thing I hadn't really counted on was that when I pack them back up again, night 2, when I pulled those out again, they were still wet from, you know, from night 1. So it didn't feel great like the first couple of minutes I had them on, but you know, that's how it goes. But yeah, that's what I carried with me. I had brought some full finger gloves as well, but I ended up leaving them in the hotel room because I just saw the forecast and there's no way I'm going to need that. So
yeah, I was surprised at how warm it was throughout the night. I mean, I didn't need, I had my vest on, but I never had to put on a jacket or warmers or even gloves. Like I was just wearing my normal kind of, you know, half finger gloves, and it was fine. It did get a little misty, got a little foggy in the morning, but yeah, I wasn't shivering or anything like that. It felt pretty good.
Yeah. No, I prepared, you know, unfortunately, I overthought the entire PvP because, you know, I heard about the extreme rain, extreme cold,
Right.
extreme everything, you know, so extreme long lines, bad toilets, everything. So, you know, I had prepared, that's what I prepared for. And of course, I didn't use any of that. You know, I only made one change of clothing on the way back at Ludiac. I think it was because at that stage nobody wanted to ride near me because I smelled so bad. But if it wasn't for that, and if I didn't, I felt bad because I had to go into the controls to get my car to get signed. If I didn't feel bad, I wouldn't have even changed. I would have just ridden the whole way through. But I could see it was getting really bad for the volunteers. And yeah, so there were a lot of things that I didn't need on this specific PvP. But I think if it was the worst case scenario that I was expecting with heavy rain and real cold weather, yeah, then I would have been sitting quite pretty. Was there anything, Kevin, that you know, you probably with the ideal weather conditions, a little bit hot, so you probably took some stuff that you didn't quite need, or you didn't have to take it from your bag. But were there any items that you carry that you, in retrospect, you say, oh, I definitely won't take any of these things for next time?
No, I did carry a jacket in my saddlebag, and I didn't need it, but it was still the right decision to take it. You know, I didn't think, oh man, I wish I didn't bring this, or on the other hand, you know, oh, I wish I had this. Like I felt like I had everything I needed. I mean, again, though the weather was ideal for me, so I didn't feel like I had too much or not enough really of anything.
What kind of bag system did you have? Did you have like one of those saddlebag epidural kind bags, or did you have a tail fin on like a that's attached to your frame? What kind of system did you use to actually carry your equipment and your clothing?
Yeah, I have a steel bike that has a front rack on it, like a little rando rack, and I got a rando bag on top of there, and I can fit a surprising amount of stuff in there. So all my food, all my layers just go right into that, and even all my tools and spares. So I only had to put on the saddlebag when I was carrying the jacket, and I never even went into it. And I love that bag. I mean, I use it on pretty much all my rides. And it's so nice and convenient, you know, especially when you're riding along, just to have quick and easy access to calories or to layers. You know, you don't have to spend the time to pull over to dig around in a saddlebag or whatever the case is. You can just kind of munch on something or throw on some layers, take off some layers, and just, you know, throw in the bag and keep on rolling.
And Jeff, yourself, what kind of system did you use to carry everything?
yeah, so I had a kind of 3 bag system where I had a top tube bag, like a, you know, that sat right behind my stem, and then like a third, like a 1/3 frame bag that was in the triangle, covers like kind of the top third of your triangle, and then a saddle bag that was not one of those giant saddle bags, but it was one that was high enough volume that has like kind of a rolling closure with a clip. So it was kind of one of the smallest, larger saddlebags that I could find, if that makes sense. Like
maybe a 9 liter or something like a.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I'm not sure what the actual volume was of the bag, but it wasn't huge, but it was enough to carry my clothes, and I think I put my spare tubes in there. So
excellent. What kind of bike did you use? Did you have a racing bike, like an aero bike, or did you have a traditional kind of steel bike?
Yeah, so I actually I built up a like a titanium gravel bike for my randoneering bike, so that I could both have clearance for fender mounts and have the mounts for fenders, and then but at the same time I wanted it to be able to go fast, so I had aero bars on it, and which for me it provides a lot of benefit to get in the aero bars. I always pick up a couple miles an hour when I'm in the aero bars, just from and then I built it up with like deep section rims that I thought the aero benefit would offset the dynamo hub, any energy loss there, because you typically lose energy from your dynamo hub when you're going at the faster speeds. So, and that's where you pick up the most aero benefit, from the deep section rims. So I kind of use those to kind of offset each other. And yeah, that was basically it. So it was but the kind of the heart of it is a titanium gravel bike. So
yeah. So 3 questions out of that. The first thing is about the aero bars and Sherman's neck. Do you think there was any association between the two?
Yeah, I probably do. Yeah, I know, having read since I've been back, that people who are in aero bars tend to be more prone to developing Schirmer's neck because of the angle that your neck is held at when you're in the aero bars. And I'm a guy who, like, when I'm on my own, I spend a lot of time in the aero. Like, I'm not like riding by myself because I also have a lot of issues with numbness in my fingers if I'm in the and it's my standard drop handlebars, like 600K, like I would have more issues than I already have. But the aero bars provide a lot of relief from my hands, so I just tend to spend a lot of time in my aero bars. So I'm sure that contributed to it. But like I told other people, like, if you have anything that's like just a little bit of a problem that you have over like a 300K or a 400K, it can become a huge problem over a 1200K. So there's things that you might not think is a big deal, but like it can become a big deal into a 1200K. So.
Thanks. I want to ask you about the second question. Is going to be, you had a gravel bike, did you use wide tires, and what size tires did you use?
So I started doing my SR series on 32s, and then I came back to I did PBP, and I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess I did PBP on 30s. So that's kind of where I landed. I went a little bit more narrow for PBP. So
okay, but it gave you enough cushioning as well as.
Yeah, that was never that big an issue to me. So
no. And the last question is, did you use any electronic gearing systems as well, or did you use more traditional cable systems?
No, it was an Ultegra it was a GRX Di2 system. So it was electronic gearing. I didn't see any, as long as you remembered, like, as long as you remember to charge the thing, like, in the weeks leading up to PVP, you can go, like, I think the biggest problem with Di2 systems is that the battery lasts so long that you forget to charge it, and you run out of charge because you just, it's not something you have to charge. Like, you'd never forget to charge your Garmin because it's going to run out after a day or two. But like the Di2 system, you can go for 4-6 weeks and not have to charge it, and that's where you get into trouble because you get lax with that. But for covering 1200K, it's like it was still a pretty full charge at the end. So
Yeah, the steel bike, it's a Rodriguez from up in Seattle. It's a Rainier. It's sort of a endurance rando sort of frame set. As I mentioned, I got the front rack on the front. Have a dynamo system, light rear, front and rear light, USB charger. That kept me going. Nothing super fancy. I just have 32 wide tires. Had some Grand Prix 5000s on those. Not running tubeless. But yeah,
Not
alloy wheels, no tubeless.
No, okay.
I started tubeless, and I had my 1000K last year. I had so many issues with during that event with the tubeless system, and it just became like I had to come up with a different system because so
Yeah.
and I would like to I think the Conti GP 5000 is probably like the best tire out there for doing
Yeah.
it's everything anyone. It's fast and it's durable. It just seems like a problem-free tire for me. And I've tried some other ones that are popular in the randonneuring space and have had problems. So I always go back to the GP 5000s, and I think that's a tube GP 5000 is perfect tire for this event.
Yep, agreed. I've had really good luck with them, but similar to you, I tried tubeless a couple times and it just wasn't working out for me. That the hassle was not worth the benefit. And I heard stories of blowouts and all this kind of stuff. And maybe got the pressure too high. I think with the narrower widths, it's harder to seat. I think it's more meant for wider tires. But hey, whatever works for you. I don't mind changing a flat every now and then. Although when I do have to change a flat, I'm like, okay, now I'm finally going back to tubeless because this sucks. But yeah, here I am still with tubes.
And did you use aero wheels, or were they standard wheels, or?
They're standard alloy wheels, DC Swiss 411s, I think. Yeah, 32 hole. So kind of the opposite of what Jeff is running there.
And your
I have a pair of those wheels though. Those are good wheels.
Yeah.
These 411s are good wheels.
Yeah. Yep, it's been holding up nice.
And your gearing systems, cable or electronic?
It's mechanical.
Mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, rim brakes.
Okay. And what about? Did you have aero bars on your bike?
No, I've never used aero bars before.
Okay.
So again, it's almost like it's the polar opposite of what Jeff has.
There's always a lot of talk about different kinds of saddles, and I've seen photographs of infinity saddles and the new specialized saddles. What kind of saddle did you use, Kevin?
That's a great question, and that kind of comes back to what Jeff brought up earlier about, hey, if you have a problem on the shorter rides, definitely get that figured out before PvP. I was running a Brooks C17. It's kind of that hard vulcanized rubber, and that was fine for 200, 300, 400s. I mean, even 600s. I mean, even my 12s, multi-day. But doing PvP straight through, that's in a whole other category, right? I mean, especially with my knee issues, I couldn't be out of the saddle as much. So I was in the saddle a lot more often than I would have liked. And I was getting all kinds of chafing and saddle sores, and it was just no good. I've considered throwing a leather saddle on there, and I definitely probably should have done that. But I didn't want to make too many changes so close to the event. So I was like, well, it's been working for me all along, so let's just, use this. But I did notice, okay, on the longer rides, I am getting some saddle sores. I am having some problems. And I just kind of pushed through it because it's like, oh, well, this ride's almost over, so let me just get it done. Well, in PvP, for 600, you're only halfway done. So definitely do not ignore those little problems because it all adds up, out there in France.
And do you have time when you're going for Charly Miller to to spend time putting on, you know, cream, lotion to lubricate? Do you actually have the time to do that? Or do you actually do you use any of those kind of lubricants?
Yeah, I got some chamois cream, and I
Okay.
actually started using Reskin. I don't know if you guys know what this is, but it's almost like a sticker that is like a second layer of skin, and you put it on your friction areas, and instead of chamois cream, your shorts just kind of rub up against that. And I was using that a couple months before PvP on a couple of intense 600s, and it worked. It worked really well. So where the second skin was, I didn't have any issues, but pretty much everywhere else where my shorts were, there was some kind of chafing, rubbing, rash. It was yeah, it was no good.
And the reskin, it can still adhere even with perspiration and the
Yeah,
heat.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it held in place really well. I mean, that's what it's designed for, right? I mean, so yeah, if you're sweating, if it's hot, if there's a lot of friction, I mean, it stayed put.
And how do you eventually take it off? Is it something that comes off after a few days or weeks or
No,
on its own?
it's just like like I said, it's kind of like a sticker. I mean, the instructions recommend that you take it off in the shower, and you can actually reuse it, apparently. I wouldn't reuse it after writing PvP or something. Like, they're not super expensive. I mean, you just order it, off their website. But yeah, I mean, it kind of grabs onto your hairs, and you got to kind of yank it off, and that's not super pleasant. But I think that's another reason why they say take it off in the shower. But yeah, apparently you can reuse it a couple times. I mean, maybe for shorter rides, but yeah, maybe not much more than that.
And Jeff, yourself, did you have a special saddle? Did you use any chamois cream?
So I did not. I would probably 4 years from now, I'll probably be I am gonna have to look into that second skin to tell you the truth. But the reskin, I did not use chamois cream. My saddle, I kind of realized that my saddle had started to deform prior to PvP, and I didn't replace it, but you could see that there were some indentations kind of where the sit bones are that probably weren't part of the saddle's design. And honestly, if I had maybe thought about it a little more, I probably should have thrown a new saddle, even if it was the same saddle type, but just one that didn't have those indentations. Because I ended up with really didn't like, I didn't know I was getting saddle sores when I was out there. Like, you just I don't know, you're in the event, it doesn't like really add up to you that you got, like, there's enough things bothering me about everything that was going on. Saddle sores were the least of it. But when I was done, like, I got a pretty severely infected saddle sore that like ballooned up to the size of an egg inside me, and it made for a pretty uncomfortable flight home. So yeah, that's an area that I have on my notes to work on, both bike fit. I'm experimenting with, I have a new saddle on already, one of the Physique 3D printed ones, which I've so far found very comfortable, but I've got to do a lot more work on seeing how it holds up over the course of time, because it looks like something that 1200K might do a number on, but we'll see how it holds up, and got some time to work on that. But yeah, new saddle is definitely in order for me. I'm not gonna relive what I went through after PvP with saddle sores, and so whether that's using chamois cream or something like the Reskin product, that interests me, and making sure the saddle is sorted out. And I also had probably in the first 60K hit a bump and my saddle slipped, and I rode at it in an uncomfortable angle for probably another until I got to Mortagne. When I had finally got dropped from the lead group, then I was like, okay. Actually, it wasn't there. I kept on riding, and then I think it's at some point I finally was bothered enough by it that at the next control I pulled out my Allen key and finally leveled my saddle. But that probably didn't do me any favors either. But
Yes.
so yeah.
Yeah, no, I in my previous life I did a bit of research in running, the science of running, and one of my main things at that time was looking at barefoot running, and I interviewed lots of barefoot runners at that time as part of my research at the time. And you know, I asked them, how do you guys actually get to run barefoot? You know, and they said, well, you take your shoes off and you just run. And I said, but you know, what about your feet? They say, well, you run until your feet callus up and you don't need to wear shoes anymore. And you know, this is back in South Africa with guys doing these ultra marathons barefoot. So they would do 56 kilometers, and the one was 89 kilometers, and they do all of these barefoot. And they simply just, they don't use any creams or lotions or nothing at all. They just run. And so that has been my philosophy with riding. So I just try to build up a good callus layer, and fingers crossed, you know. Yeah. Well, it's always painful, but you know, after a break from riding, it takes a long time to callus up again. But eventually, you know, that's the way I try to do it. I want to ask you about your goals, Kevin. Would you consider going back to ride PBP again in 2027? And would you have the same kind of goal again for 2027?
Yeah, absolutely. I have every intention of riding again in 2027. I have no intention of doing Charly Miller again. It was an amazing experience. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I mean, I did it, right? So I don't, at this point in time, don't have any desire to do it again. I want to actually go and enjoy myself, right? And not try to kill myself with this crazy time goal. So I'll probably go back and do the 80-hour and just kind of ride a normal, you know, quote unquote normal pace. And then, you know, I can spend a little more time at the controls. I can actually have a sit down meal instead of just getting grab and go food at every control. You know, chat it up with the locals, you know, just kind of enjoy the entire experience a little more than just solely focusing on getting the ride done as quick as possible.
But would that mean, would you change your start time in that case? Would you still go with the 80 hour, or would you change it to more to 84 or 90 or something?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I got a couple years to figure that out. I mean, as of now, I was just thinking about just doing the 80-hour ride again. I mean, I know I can do a 1200 in 80 hours, just riding, you know, at my normal pace. I like the idea of being ahead of the bulge.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to spend, I just in general, like PvP or brevets in general, I like to be in and out of controls and stops. You know, there's such a time suck. You know, time is very, very much well spent better on the saddle and forward momentum, and like Jeff mentioned. But you know, maybe I'll do the 84, maybe I will do the 90. I don't know. I mean, you know, there's always what, 2031, I guess. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I agree. If you, I mean, my time was a 73, so but I managed to stay ahead of the bulge almost all the way. So I never ever had a queue at any facility at any of the checkpoints, and I had like an amazing. So you know, nice. Even dropping back, slowing down, I actually stopped at many of the informal cycling club pop-ups along the road, and you know, chatted to people, and it was great. So yeah, I can say that, you know, if you're going to do the 80-hour, you can do it comfortably and still get your full experience without having the hassles of the bulge. Certainly. That's Jeff, are you planning to go back again 2027, and what's your goals for that?
Yeah, so I did not make Charly Miller time this time around, so it absolutely is my goal to go back and make sure I get some of this stuff sorted out, so I don't relive some of the issues I had. And you know, yeah, so I do plan on going back in 4 years and going for Charly Miller time. You know, Father Time isn't working towards my benefit too much, but I still think I'm going to be, you know, one of the things I think is important for a lot of people to realize, and like, especially with like Nick DeHaan and some of the criticism that there was about him and his ride, like as amazing it was, 41 hours, or it, like, if you're a fast rider, if you're that fast, like you're gonna ride at your pace. Like there's not like a slower pace that's like more comfortable for you to ride. You ride at your pace. So I almost think like if you're somebody who's capable of riding at Charlie, like doing a Charly Miller time, it's not really that you're riding any differently as much as maybe you have to be a little more attentive at the controls to not lose a lot of time at stoppages and everything. But I don't think that like I don't think anyone goes out and like intentionally rides 2 miles an hour slower because you know they're going to take this ride more casually. You kind of ride at the pace that it's kind of like water finding its level. If you're out there for 1200K, you're going to ride at a pace that's comfortable for you, and if you exceed that pace, you're not going to exceed it for very long, and it's likely that you're not going to ride slower than you feel comfortable with because that seems like the ride's taking too long and you probably get impatient and you're not riding at a pace that's comfortable for you. So I almost think that once you get to the point where you're physically capable of riding a Charly Miller time, it's not really that you're not enjoying the ride or whatever. It's just being efficient at controls, and I still think you're getting the PvP experience. Like I don't think that I lost a whole lot of the experience by trying to ride it at the speed that I was riding at. Like it's the time that I lost was not time that was like lost because I was enjoying the French countryside,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have mixed thoughts about like the criticism that's aimed at like people trying to ride this at a faster pace, because they're just people that ride faster, and that's their natural pace, and they're just now he had some support or whatever, but still I don't know. I can't find too much criticism of people that ride at their pace, and it happens to be a lot faster than what other people ride at. So
and that's, I think, that's so important, because I can see this video is also get lots of criticism. But so just to clarify, when you went out in the A group trying to do this Charly Miller Award, did you go in with the mindset that you're racing to beat other people? Was that what you were doing, or were you just trying to see what your potential, what can you do?
Oh no, this is all me against me. So like it's there is nothing but I think a cooperative attitude amongst people. Like I'll throw out another anecdote. You talked about coming back in 4 years to do PvP and go for Charly Miller again. And I spent a good deal of riding back from Brest with my friend Brian Toon from Birmingham, if he's watching. He basically made me swear an oath that I'd come back in 4 years so we could both get Charly Miller. When we realized we were out of it, he's like, "You're coming back in 4 years so we can get this done, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am," and so we've both communicated since then, and so we're both kind of holding each other accountable to that. But it's a very cooperative. For people that are trying to do that, beat basically challenge themselves to go after that goal. It's very cooperative. You want everyone that is going after that to achieve it. I'm sure that as Kevin experienced with Max and Brian, like they wanted nothing more than for Kevin to get Charly. They weren't racing, like they wanted to wait, give him some extra time at that control so that he could keep on going to meet his own personal goals. So I find it to be, of those people who are riding together in that discussion, everything's very cooperative. So that's my perception.
Kevin, did you have, was it your intention to go out and race this event, or are you just trying to do the best that you can? What is your intention with riding a Charly Miller?
Yeah, I mean, I did not have any kind of mindset of this being a race against other people. I mean, I had to finish in 80 hours. I mean, that was really the only thing I needed to worry about, was finishing in 80 hours. If I wanted my, let's say, secondary goal, the audacious goal of getting the Charly Miller, I'll do whatever I can to make that happen. but it's not like, oh, that rider is passing me, I got to make sure to pass him. Like it was never like that, you know, as long as I can finish the ride and I'm satisfied with my performance, I mean, that's really all I was concerned with.
In the short term, have you guys got any other randonneering goals on the horizon that you are going to participate in?
Next year, planning on riding a couple 1200s domestically. Actually think about coming up your way, you know, see what offerings Canada has and do a 1200 up there, and you know, handful down in the States. Not really too much going on next year. I would like to do LEL in 25. That sounds fun. Yeah, not too much, not too many other plans beyond that at the moment.
Wonderful. And Jeff, yourself?
Yeah, I've been struggling since PvP because I don't have anything on the horizon. And so I haven't inked any type of plans for next year other than my you know, not on the non-randonneuring side, on the criterium side, there, you know, I have events that I target every year. So those will likely work their way into the calendar too. But as far as distance, these types of challenges, like there's a big hole that's left for me right now from PvP being over, and it's I don't know. I think that like there could be a whole nother discussion about like the psychological trauma that people face after PvP, because you know the week after it was hard on me, like, and then and I would say in the months since then, like there's just like a, you know, a lack of a sense of purpose on the bike. And I think until I get something solid to work towards so that I can, you know, I'm kind of going through the motions with my training right now, and it doesn't feel great. And, you know, I'm still recovering. I mean, I still have like a lack of feeling in my toes and my right foot, and a couple of my fingers are still numb. So, you know, it's still not completely out of my system. So, but I just feel like until I put something on paper for next year and come up with some audacious goals that get me excited, it's going to be a little it's just challenging to get through right now, because there is just this big hole that's left by PvP being over.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Jeff. I definitely felt similar things to you as well. I mean, just it's you said an audacious goal, and it was definitely that. And you know, from the first moment I heard about PvP, I knew I had to do it, and that was 4 years ago. You know, so that was my long-term goal. And now it's done. Now you're kind of like, well, now what? And my knee, I was having issues, you know, recovering from the ride, so I didn't ride at all for like a couple weeks, I think. And it just not having anything on the calendar, like I'm with you. It's depressing. You know, you got to find something to kind of fill that void, if you will. So yeah, hopefully when things start kind of picking up again. I mean, Rusa just posted their ride calendar for 24, so that helped kind of lift my spirits a little bit, just to have something to look forward to. But yeah, it's real. I mean, you gotta have something else to kind of fall back on after, you know, you work so hard towards something, and then you either achieve it or you don't. The time has passed and you're left with like, now what? So
You know, you guys have been absolutely amazing. You've given us such great insights into riding the PvP, riding with all your goals as well. And yeah, you've just been, you know, a fountain of knowledge. So thank you so much for your time and giving it up so graciously. And I want to wish you guys all the very best for your next goals. And once again, congratulations on your achievements. And yeah, so maybe we can get together again once you have your goals and see how things are in the future. It'll be awesome.
Definitely, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I was going to ride that Shenandoah ride, near the 1200 in Virginia.
Yeah.
Hamid is going to arrange that. I think it's 13,000 meters of elevation. Yeah, but I'm gonna ride with Jermaine, and we're gonna, yeah, I look forward to taking some great videos on that ride.
And
so
Jeff,
maybe I'll see you guys.
Don't you guys have a 12 in Pennsylvania coming up next year?
I don't know. I'm like, I feel like I feel bad that I'm not as connected to the randoneering scene here in Pittsburgh, and like all the randoneering folks in Pittsburgh are gonna like watch Reagan's video here and go, who's this guy? Because yeah, I don't know if maybe they have one. I think there are a lot more rides on the eastern side of the state, but the guy Dan, who's the local like LaRussa guy here, has been doing a really good job in trying to build things up around Pittsburgh. But like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, like eastern and western PA are it's almost like 5 hours to get over. It's like 4.5 hours to drive out to Philly. So like you think it's all Pennsylvania, it's like we're all one community, but they're like Eagles fans and we're Steelers fans, and like 4.5 hours. So it's kind of like two different groups of people. Sure. But it's actually a lot easier for me to get to the Virginia randoneering. Like most of their Northern Virginia and DC start in Frederick, Maryland, and I can be in Frederick in like under 3 hours. So
okay. Yeah, there's lots of offerings on the East Coast. I'm probably going to be flying out there next year. And I think there's a brevet up in Canada, the Vancouver, I think I saw. I don't know, Regan, if you're aware of any other 1200s up in your neck of the woods.
Well, I know that it's called the Granite Anvil. There's one that's in Ontario. I think it's Toronto out somewhere.
Okay.
But we're not as organized in Canada as what you are in the US. So we don't have like a national database of rides at the moment. But I can find out more about it, and I'll send you a mail as soon as I can get some information.
I appreciate that.
There's one they used to have that I had read about and I wanted to do when I was first looking at qualifiers or pre-qualifiers, and it was called Lap of the Lake or something like that, and ran it from like Rochester. The guy that is the RBA in Rochester. You do a whole lap of Lake Ontario. So you go up into Canada, past Toronto, through Niagara Falls, and then back to Rochester. And I guess COVID shut it down, and then because Canada's border was kind of inflexible there for a while, and then once the border opened up, then I guess Rusa couldn't secure insurance for So now you can't have like cross border or border crossings during a single event because of insurance.
Well, they have New York, Montreal, New York, and it doesn't even go up to Montreal. It just stays in New York. So it's like, okay, call it something else now, I guess.
Wonderful. But anyway, thanks so much, guys. I'm getting the evil eye from my wife, so
all right,
time to let you guys go. Okay, speak to you again.
Nice chatting with you guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. All right, take care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching the second part of this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed it, please press that like button. If you want to see more videos similar to this, please subscribe to this channel. Until the next time we meet, you ride safe. Bye.